The First Amendment is absolute. All amendments are absolute unless another amendment comes along to undo a previous amendment. Other than that, amendments are absolute. And the most important amendment ever created in this wonderful document of the Constitution is the First Amendment. Not just freedom of speech, press, religion, but the most important one of those, you could argue, is freedom of the press. You see, the press is that unspoken fourth branch of the U.S. government. It is meant to keep corruption in line. However, if you control the media, you control it all. And you can get away with whatever you want. Now, when you have dissent upon the media, it is the Constitution that is supposed to hold up and prevent government from going after that media. Unfortunately, in today's times, that the First Amendment has gotten very weak. And the media, who should be pounding their fist on the desk, pointing fingers directly at Joe Biden, directly at the DOJ, and say that this is unacceptable. Well, they're not. And it's not just mainstream media that's been quiet on this. A lot of the sites that you would expect to get fired up, raise hell, and demand answers, they have been quiet as well, which is even scarier. For many of you, you probably already know, I'm talking about Blaze reporter Steve Baker, who at the time of January 6th was an independent reporter. He was arrested Friday, and because he reported the truth. The one thing the Democrats hate more than Donald Trump, that is the truth. They cannot handle the truth, because the truth is, it is the Democratic Party, it is Joe Biden, it is the DOJ that is far closer to Russian policy, to Chinese policy of dictatorial, evil, fascist style of government. Now, the Blaze media has reported on this greatly, and rightfully so. Timcast has talked about it, and was one of Tim Pool's leads, had a whole video on it. Whereas a lot of the other internet conservative sites, fairly quiet. That's alarming. I expect nothing less out of NBC and CNN and Fox News. I expect nothing less out of them. But for a site like the Daily Wire to only have one article and never mentioned on Ben Shapiro's show, I get you have this big Supreme Court news that dropped, which, quite honestly, was not shocking at all. The most shocking part about that was it was 9-0. But again, that's not as big news as people are trying to make it out to be. The result was as we expected. A conservative win, Donald Trump going on the ballot. Now this here, with Steve Baker, with Catherine Heritage, I should say. These are more, this is bigger news. This is more important. Is it going to get more clicks? No. But I'm not here for clicks. I am here to sound the alarm on stuff that people should be paying attention to. Is it going to hurt me? Yeah. Is it harder to grow that way? Yeah. Do I care? Hell no. Because this needs to be out. This needs to be talked about. Because we cannot be having opposition media being arrested, whether it's a Republican president sending his DOJ after Democrat reporters, or vice versa. Party lines don't matter to me in this case. Cenk Uygur wants to come out splatter his bullcrap, fine, I don't care. Harry wants to come out, splatter his bullcrap, fine, I don't care. Tucker Carlson wants to come down and spew his stuff, fine, I don't care. As long as you have the right to come on to YouTube, to Rumble, to TikTok, to Instagram, Facebook, you name it, and spout what you want as long as it is not illegal, I should add, then it should not be censored. It should not in any way be demonetized, as long as it is within the bounds of the laws already in place. And yet, we have media out there. It's only covering this kind of stuff for just mere seconds, if at all. Now, this article by Dave Urbanski from The Blaze. This was Steve Baker spoke about it. He talked about being embarrassed. It was dehumanizing. Absolutely outrageous. And what is sickening to me is that the left will come out, call Republicans fascist, while having fascist ideologies. It's insane. And this whole fight for democracy and this and that and the other, and yet they are the exact institution that is going after the institutions that allow a democracy, a constitutional republic to happen. And for the media, and again, I will hammer the media each and every time, because they are the ones mostly responsible for everything that goes on in DC. They might not be doing it, but they are allowing it. And that is absolutely unacceptable. We need a media we can trust and rely on. That is not Fox. That is not NBC. That is not CNN. And it's shameful and it is despicable. And you wonder why the youngest average viewership, that is CNN, is 67 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, none of these newscasts can be trusted. None. From Fox to NBCSN. You have Vivek Ramaswamy sounded off. We actually have the criminal complaint. And the charges against Steve Baker. Knowingly entering or remaining in any restricted building or grounds without lawful authority. Disorderly and disruptive conduct in a restricted buildings or grounds. Disorderly conduct in a Capitol building. Parading and demonstrating or picketing in a Capitol building. Which he was not doing. All of this is for show. This is all journalistic intimidation by the Biden administration. And that is something under no circumstances we can have. Now, I know the left is going to come out and say, well, Donald Trump said this, that, and the other. No, he made fun of the media. It is very different than coming out and making fun of the media and then going out and arresting them. Those are two totally separate things. And it is, again, absolutely unacceptable to have these major media outlets, the Krassesteins on X, not a word. Not a word. And they have in their bio, journalists. Journalists? Bull. Absolute bull. There is a staunch difference between commentary and journalists. I never claim to be a journalist. I am a commentator. I provide commentary. All the news that I gather is from other sites. Just like in this particular video, it's all the Blaze. It is all the Blaze. You got Steve Baker, the Steve Baker's release. Now, this story that has gotten even less coverage than Steve Baker. Catherine Herridge, held in contempt, being fined $800 a day for protecting a source. And once again, just like Steve Baker, no media outrage. Now, this one by Chris Enlone. A federal judge held in a veteran, jeez, oh, Pete, I need to learn how to talk. A federal judge held veteran investigative reporter Catherine Herridge in civil contempt of court on Thursday for upholding journalistic ethics and not revealing her confidential sources. Federal judge that is actually an activist, just cosplaying as a judge, I might add, Christopher Cooper, ordered Herridge to pay an $800 a day fine until she divulges the information the court wants. Now, Cooper does have 30 days has stayed the ruling for 30 days, giving Herridge ample time to appeal before the fines begin to start coming in. And this stems from when she worked at Fox in 2017. She reported on a federal investigation into Chinese-American scientist Yiping Chen, however the hell you pronounce that, whom the FBI once investigated over suspicions of Chinese military ties and whether she had lied on U.S. immigration forms, the New York Times noted. The FBI never charged Chen. And Chen sued the federal government, alleging that the government employees had leaked her information to Herridge in violation of the Privacy Act. Last year, Cooper ordered Herridge to reveal the sources of her information about Chen, but she refused, citing her First Amendment rights. You see, they claim the left claims to care about your rights. They claim to care about your imaginary rights that you don't actually have. Those would be anti-rights. You gaining rights at the expense of others. And yet, time and time again, as we see here, they do not care about your First Amendment rights. They will attack that if you disagree with them. If you disagree with them, they will do everything in their power to strip your rights away. You look at what they're doing with Donald Trump. You look at what they're doing here with Steve Baker, with Herridge. They do not care about your First Amendment right, your Second Amendment right, your Fourth Amendment right. They do not care. And luckily, with the Supreme Court, it went the way we expected. So that's not exactly news. But again, it's the attempt that says everything. They want to take away your right to vote for the other guy. And yet, they come out here claiming to be the defenders of democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, all you got to do is sniff, and you can smell the bull. Because that's all the left is. They do not care about your rights. They don't hate Vladimir Putin. They don't hate Xi Jinping. They do not hate Kim Jong-un. The left idolizes those people because they want that kind of world for their Americans. And this is just another example. You have Justin Trudeau up in Canada, Fidel Castro's son, reportedly, who has pretty much turned every single Canadian news outlet to his side to spew his bullcrap, except one. And they have arrested Canadian Rebel News multiple times, members of that news organization multiple times, for very petty charges that doesn't make sense and would not hold up in a normal court. And I don't think it has yet. But again, it's the left. And the more that you buy into the guy with the nice hair on the funny little box, the more you buy into that, more down this rabbit hole you go, and the harder shock you are going to get if the left gets everything that they want. And that is something that can never, ever happen with this Democrat Party. That is why, regardless, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. I'm going to vote right. Conservative all the way down the ballot, because the left cannot be trusted. We've seen the paper trail with corruption from Joe Biden to China. We've seen the corruption with Joe Biden in Ukraine. We've seen the paper trail of corruption. The allowance of human and child traffickers across the southern border that Joe Biden has allowed in. All you have to do nowadays is type in Dr. Phil. He'll explain it to you. On The View, I might add. And you have people of the left who will more than happily go into that voting booth, check off Joe Biden to be the president once again. Because they don't know exactly what's going on. They just know there's something bad going on at the border, and it may or may not be Donald Trump's fault, even though it's preposterous. There is no actual logical line you can draw that can blame the border on Trump. You see, people started coming to the border once Joe Biden went into office. The numbers prove that. You go ask somebody coming in illegally why they're coming, it's because Joe Biden's the president. They'll get in. And yet, Joe Biden continues to hide behind Congress, saying we got to get a bill passed. No, you don't. All you have to do is enforce the laws already in place. And Border Patrol has more than enough funding to turn people away. Those funds need to be reallocated to deportation, not a ferry system. But this is the reality that we have to deal with until November. And it is it's going to be a very bumpy ride all the way through to November. I fear this isn't going to be the last of journalists being arrested. I have a deep fear that we are going to see in the very near future journalists and commentators potentially being up for arrest for whatever reason it may be. And I would caution, if somehow this reaches the feature page for Benny Johnson or a Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Glenn Beck, be very, very careful. Watch everything you say. Make sure every single thing is calculated. Because the Biden administration and his cronies are watching every second, trying to find some way to parade you around in cuffs, just like they did with Steve Baker. Because the left, the Democratic Party as we know today, there is no difference between them and the Soviet Union, or the Chinese Communist Party, or Kim Jong-un. There is no difference in the Democrat Party and the evil groups that I just mentioned. Because that is the end goal for the Democratic Party. Full control, no resistance. Ladies and gentlemen, this election will determine the direction America goes. If Donald Trump goes into office, we will see prosperity again and the rebirth of the American dream. If it is Joe Biden that is elected, or placed, I should say, then America as we know it will never, ever be the same again. The Constitution will be a thing of the past. And the freedoms, the final beacon of hope in the world, that is the United States of America, will no longer be a beacon, but bait for people to come in, only to be captured and put to work for no pay. That is what's going to happen. And yeah, it sounds extreme. But when Donald Trump compared himself to Alexei Navalny, he wasn't projecting what has happened to him at this point. He is projecting what will happen in the future if we continue down the route of the Democrats. And to suggest that we won't wake up one day, should Donald Trump be tried, arrested, and jailed, that he may end up being Jeffrey Epstein. And it seems fairly clear at this point, Epstein did not kill himself. But that's what the liberal media is going to want you to believe about Donald Trump. Should he be imprisoned for crimes that were either A, he did not commit, or B, never even happened. That is exactly what happened to Alexei Navalny. And that is what is very well, more than likely, going to happen to Donald Trump if he is found guilty and sent to prison. And the left, you watch. If this happens, you watch. The left will cheer this on. All the way up until it happens to them. As the famous last words, the French Revolution, I'm on your side, right before the guillotine comes down. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dylan Hildreth. This is the Dylan Hildreth Show. Make sure to subscribe, like, follow, whatever you need to do, depending on the platform you're watching this on. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.